Welcome to the 20th anniversary of PMNCH. Please clap for all of us. We are teenagers, and teenagers have a lot of energy, so we expect to see that energy coming through. And number two is that teenagers are just starting their lives, and therefore they are very eager and energetic. And therefore, we look forward to a very, very energetic conversation today. And welcome to all of us, the partners, because this is a difficult task, and no one can do it alone. And therefore, when I look at that board, I see all the partners represented here. This just demonstrates how we come together to make change. And that change is needed, it's urgent, because every 2 minutes we lose a woman and we lose 11 children every 2 minutes. So though we made a lot of progress, that progress is stalling, and we still, by 2023 data from WHO, every 2 minutes we lose a woman and 11 children. So as we look forward to this conversation, we must keep that in mind, that urgency is an imperative. Today, as we have this breakfast at our 20th anniversary of our partnership, we also are looking to implement this new strategy together. So you look at that, it's on your table, and it is really calling for partnership for change. The most important partnerships are at country level, where the action happens, whether it is with the government, it is with civil society, it is the private sector. And that is the thrift and the drift of this strategy, and you can have a look at it. It's on your table, and there is another piece, another card that has QR codes if you want to access the other statement. So we don't have a lot of time this morning. The program is tight, so we are going to always remember that every 2 minutes you take is one child, is one woman, 11 children. So please remember that. Whatever we are taking time, we're speaking, it is time for us to actually move to action, so we don't take too much time speaking. First, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to PMNCH for organizing this and for the steady commitment for so many years. And PMNCH is not the secretariat. PMNCH is all of us who are in this room here today, and always hosting this accountability breakfast. I have had the pleasure of moderating several of these and enjoying the conversations and seeing the passion that we have to move forward. But why are we here today, and how do we find ourselves here? We made a lot of progress, of course, in the last 20 years. But as you know, that this week has the foundation of crisis. I think as we gather here in New York, we know that there are multiple crises that are confronting us, not least the funding cuts, but conflicts, climate shocks, and all these other things that we have to contend with. So we know that there is urgency, and we can't give up on the job, because this is not just a job about the rights of children and women and adolescents. It's a job about sustainable development. It's actually about
the audio
our
quality
prosperity,
diminished because of something here.
And we will be hearing a lot from civil society. We'll hear a lot about the evidence available, and we'll also hear from those who actually are the bus drivers,
You can hear me
the
talking.
ministers, who every day wake up thinking about that child. Who every day wake up thinking about that woman. Every day. I always say that the hardest job to have, especially where I come from, is to be a minister of health. It's one of the most difficult jobs, because you work with very little resources, but the demand and the needs and the burdens that are on your shoulders, because you know that a country cannot develop without a healthy citizenry. So the president is looking at you, the people are looking at you, but the finance minister is not always looking at you. So it's a very difficult job. And I want to say I have the pleasure to say that we have 4 ministers of health here today. We have, of course, Aaron, Minister Aaron, His Excellency from South Africa. Please give him a big hand. I think it's important we recognize the ministers who are here with us. We have His Excellency Ibrahim Assi from Senegal, so welcome. And we've been joined by Excellency Osin Dembi, thank you, from Sierra Leone, welcome. And we also are joined also by WHO Regional Director, Professor Janabi, who is here with us. So we are going to be hearing really from the front lines, and let me see whether there is, yeah. So we are going to be hearing from the front lines and listening to what exactly is happening right there. So let us then look at what we need to do today. The first thing we need to do today is that we are going to be taking stock of where we are. We'll hear about where we are, the challenges, and what is going to take to meet our shared goals. The second thing is that we are going to be hearing from the front lines, as you've seen, right from the top of the front lines, where the action happens. And then we are going to turn into how to make our commitments into progress. I'm reminded of a saying, I saw it recently, that says, not every lion that chases a zebra catches it, but every lion that catches a zebra has chased it. Not every lion that chases a zebra, let's say it together, not every lion that catches a zebra, that chases a zebra, but every lion that catches a zebra has. So action is important. You cannot sit and wait, okay? And that is coming from a Kenyan who knows how to run. You've seen what we did in Tokyo. Yeah, so let us have action. So we are going to be chasing down the actions we have that we need for rights and for sustainable development. So for practical reasons, I want to announce that we have this session in 3 different languages, and therefore we have Spanish, we have French, and English. There is a translation device on your table. Please use it. Please use that. So to begin us and to move forward, I would like to take the honor to invite our first speaker, the Right Honorable Helen. May I say the always indefatigable Right Honorable Helen Clark, former Prime Minister of New Zealand and the chair of PMNCH board. Helen, the time is now. Over to you.
Thank you, Gitinji. Good morning, ministers, colleagues and friends. Gitinji said Minister of Health is often the most difficult job in a government. I can testify to this. I was one once, and you're right, finance ministers are more likely to be asking you to cut expenditure than to grow it. So I know what it's like to be in that seat. Well, welcome again to the Accountability Breakfast. Really a highlight for PMNCH every year. The pandemic knocked us back a little bit. We couldn't be here, but we've been back again last year, and it's great to see our many stakeholders from PMNCH here. Now, Gitinji said we're first going to take stock. I guess I'm part of the taking stock part of the program. He talked about us living in a time of foundational crisis and we can't give up on the job. Absolutely true. These are extraordinary times, and some of those issues will play out in bigger stages than this down the road in the coming days. But as this audience is well aware, so many lives are on the line still, as an unprecedented number of conflicts are raging, the climate crisis is deepening, and global solidarity is faltering. The very institutions and systems we rely on to protect women's, children's and adolescents' health and well-being are under great pressure. Sexual and reproductive health and rights face renewed and very deliberate attacks. When the Mexico City policy is reinstated or the Helms Amendment is enforced, the impact is immediate and it's devastating. Clinics close, contraceptives disappear from the shelves, midwives and health workers are silenced, adolescent girls and women cannot get life-saving care. nor access to the knowledge and tools they need to make decisions about their bodies and their future. Of course, these threats have been compounded by political decisions to slash official development assistance abruptly, dismantle key development and public health institutions, and retreat from evidence-based policy making. Countries which have relied on international support have not been given time to adjust. Their women and girls then face more unintended pregnancies, more exposure to sexually transmitted diseases, more unsafe abortions, and more maternal deaths, unless we all step up to support the countries most impacted. Of course, scientific knowledge has been so vital for improving health outcomes, but it's under great pressure these days too, from misinformation, disinformation, all contributing to public trust in vital interventions. The impact of all this together is it's harder to make progress on achieving those critical SDG targets, and 2030 isn't very far away now. So at PMNCH, we constantly emphasise that investing in women, children and adolescents' health matters. There is so much evidence of the benefits of it and the profound social and economic returns which it brings, uplifting families, individuals, communities, societies alike. And we are seeing today so many low and middle income countries doing whatever they can to prioritise those investments within their own budgets, even when money is short. Let me acknowledge our friend, the Minister from South Africa, for the commitments there to scale up HIV treatment, matched with renewed ambition to reach global targets. We see elsewhere in Malawi, new investments to strengthen the health workforce. In Nigeria, prioritising the local production of health commodities. We know that strong political leadership will direct investments to where they matter most and expand access, safeguard rights, and protect people from the financial ruin which families can face from catastrophic health service costs. As we know, more and more these investments will have to come from domestic resources, and that isn't easy. And more, we must back initiatives to support local innovation and manufacturing around health needs. So for PMNCH, we have a new strategy for 2026-2030, emphasising the need to speed up effort, advocacy and accountability across our whole partnership. From grassroots coalitions to the high-level champions, we do assemble a very powerful coalition for the protection and promotion of the health and rights of women, children and adolescents. Multi-stakeholder partnerships like ours are the backbone of effective advocacy. It's our job to see that evidence gets through to decision makers, that local voices are shaping global policy and no commitment made is left unfulfilled. At PMNCH, we've got a greatly slimmed down and less burdensome governance structure. We have sharper priorities, more focused tactics. We've been reinventing ourselves too to be fit for purpose in these times. And we are committed to supporting national and regional actors and to leveraging the global platforms like this week to support coordinated, effective and impactful action. At the heart of today's discussion then is a simple truth, that rights are the foundation of our health and dignity. Upholding the health and rights of women, children and adolescents is a moral imperative, and whether we do it is a test of our credibility as a global community. Accountability must begin with rights, holding governments, donors, institutions, ourselves to our commitments, and insisting that every woman, every child, every adolescent is recognised as a holder of inalienable rights. With our new strategy, we stand ready to support that vision, working hand in hand with all our partners, many of whom are here today, to turn shared commitments into lasting and real progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister Helen, for those inspiring comments. And now we are going to move on to the next session. I'm going to invite Professor Yakub Janabi, who is the Regional Director for Africa for WHO, and also congratulate him for his recent election to this role. Welcome, Professor Janabi. And you could talk to us a little more about how protecting the health of women, children, and adolescents is tied to Africa's future and its future development trajectory. Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure it's a congratulation to this position at this time. Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and dear friends, it is a privilege to join you this morning alongside the retired Honorable Helen Clark to open this important gathering of accountability breakfast. I thank the organization, PMNCH, for convening us, and for ensuring that the voices of women, children, and adolescents remain the center of the global agenda. But let's ask ourselves why this agenda matters for the future of Africa. Africa's future rests on a simple truth. Our development, our stability, and prosperity depend on how well we protect and invest in women, children, and adolescents. Just imagine, just by 2050, 2 out of every 5 children born in this world will be Africans. Already, our continent has the youngest population on Earth, with nearly a quarter just under the age of 20. This is both our greatest opportunity and our highest responsibility. I said in Geneva, either it can be a dividend or it can be a liability. Teenager pregnancy, exposure to illicit drugs, school dropout, and you can mention the rest. So it's our decision today, regardless of all the geopolitical tensions, financial uncertainties, this group has to be given the priority. If every African child can survive, thrive, and grow into a healthy, educated, and empowered adult, then the Africa we want will be within our reach. It's our natural resource. But if we fail to protect the health and rights, we risk losing an entire generation potential. But how does this shape the broader development trajectory, as you just asked me? Health is not separate from development. It's a foundation. It's not a cost. It's an investment. Healthy women are more likely to participate in the economy. Healthy children are more likely to succeed in school. Healthy adolescents are more likely to become productive and resilient adults. Investing in health multiplies progress across the Sustainable Development Goals, which you are just less than 5 years need to achieve. From education to gender equity, from poverty to reduction to peace and stability, Africa has already shown what is possible. Since the year 2000, maternal mortality has been stably falling below 40%, by 40%, nearly 40% in most of the countries. I was just in Zambia, is 85 per 100,000 live births. And the target by 2030, it's 70. But I always say, why should a woman die by giving birth? Just for your information, pregnancy is not a disease. It's just a physiological change. And our under 5 deaths have often reduced by more than half. These gains prove the progress is achievable despite resource constraints. My message is always, okay, we are in financial constraints, financial crisis, but what can you do better with less? And each and every one of us need to think about it. We are at risk of losing momentum by these funding cuts, fragile political will, and misinformation threaten to stall, or even reverse all the gains we've got. So what must be done to ensure no one is left behind? I think there are three priorities. First, the political leadership, and we see our ministers are here and other leaders in the room. Women's, children, and adolescents' health, and the drive towards universal health coverage must remain heads of state's agenda. UHC is already a political commitment by our leaders, and this is where accountability must begin. The second priority is transforming health systems. Health systems must be reshaped to deliver people-centered, resilient, and equitable services in times of peace and in times of crisis. This means strengthening the primary health care as the backbone of service delivery, ensuring integration, financial protection, and quality care close to where people live. And it means building resilient capacities, not only health workers, but also medicines, diagnostics, supply chains, and health information system. All are essential to resilience and equity. And the third and last is mobilizing and aligning resources. Domestic financing must grow. While external support should reinforce national priorities, and because health is shaped by poverty, education, nutrition, sanitation, all of our government and all of society must be engaged. Finally, what role can partnership play? This is where PMNCH value is undeniable. By mobilizing device constituency, building accountability, and amplifying advocacy, partnership turns commitments into results. I welcome the launch of today PMNCH new 2026-2030 strategy, which focuses on advocacy, accountability, and acceleration, exactly what we need in this moment. Excellencies, colleagues, and friends, Africa's future is inseparable from the health of its women, children, and adolescents. With collective action, we can protect the gains we have made and accelerate further. WHO is the Africa region stands as a steadfast partner. The Africa we want is within our grasp if we choose to put our health and rights of women, children, and adolescents at every heart of our development journey. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Healthy children learn, and healthy adults earn. So it's really close to Africa's development. And I'm always reminded that my mother has 9 children. I'm number 8 out of that. And she had her first child in 1952, her last child in 1978. All survived. She survived. She's 90 today and alive. It's possible. That was before we had as many resources as we have today. So what is stopping us now with all the science and all the resources we have? So let's talk about the science and understand why is it that we are here? Why is it with so much resources? What is data saying about why we are failing to do the job that my mother did over 25 years with 9 children, all alive, all healthy, and all today earning and changing the lifestyle of our community? So I'm going to ask Jeremy Farrell to come up. Jeremy, is it too soon? I see you just, okay, yeah? It's okay, good. I know you're very versatile. So Jeremy, please come up and let us know about what data do we have and what's the data saying? Why are we failing at a job that actually should be natural, has been done and can be done. Thank you. Welcome, Jeremy. And for any of the speakers, if you feel like speaking from your table, please go ahead. There are mics there. So feel free to speak from wherever you are.
So, good morning everybody. I apologise for a clash of commitments earlier this morning, and then not having a QR code downstairs. So, but I would praise US immigration because it was coming through very easily yesterday, which was a pleasure to come through. So, thank you very much for the invitation, and to everybody that has put this together. My name's Jeremy Farrar. Until recently, I was the chief scientist at the World Health Organization. Prior to that, I was head of something called the Wellcome Trust in London, and prior to that, 20 years living in Vietnam. But my new role is as the Assistant Director General for Health Promotion, Disease Prevention and Care. And within that structure of the new reformed the World Health Organization rests all of the disease programs, but also all of the drivers of health and ill health: nutrition, food safety, immunizations, climate, urbanization, social and commercial determinants of health, and many others. And the reason I mention that at the start is because in this painful, very, very painful reform process that's going on at the World Health Organization, I do believe, and this is not a corporate view, this is my own personal view, that in headquarters in Geneva and with our regional colleagues, we are going to move, after we move through this very painful period, into a different world where I do believe that the World Health Organization will be more joined up through our country offices, our regional offices, and at headquarters, and that it will bring things together in clusters or divisions or groups which most naturally fit together. And of course, in this group, as well as the things I've mentioned, are all of the areas of maternal child health, sexual and reproductive health, healthy aging, the healthy light course, and of course, as a one step removed from WHO itself, but a very, very strong partner integrated within a PMNCH platform, which we're very pleased to host. I'm going to start off with just a few reflections of, I think, how probably most of us are feeling here in the audience. And over the last 6 months, 9 months, maybe 12 months, since some of us were here last year, the world has gone through one of the most profound disruptions in modern history. We have conflict in multiple continents, and as Dr. Tedros, who sends his best wishes, always says, the best health is only achieved through peace. So anything that will bring the current conflicts, large and small, to an end will bring better health. And it will particularly bring better health for the people, women, children, adolescents who suffer the most in the most vulnerable communities. So whatever else we do in the health community, broadly writ, bringing peace to the world would make the biggest single difference to how we go forward. The second is, although we at WHO, and I'm sure many in the audience here, have had their work and what they want to do disrupted over the course of the last 12 months. Reduced funding, reduced areas of progress, reducing of what you believe you can do for the people you serve. It is true in all of our organizations, but all of those pale in significance with the impact these disruptions are having at a country level. There is almost no country in any continent, poor, medium, or rich economies, that isn't affected by these cuts. And again, I don't know about you, but from my sense, having lived through as a professional era, an era where really the world did come together and coalesce around the sense of global health and solidarity and working together, with some disruptions, of course, in history. But I felt over the last year a sense of grief that what we had has been taken away from us. That what we had in terms of a consensus was no longer with us. I think all of us and everybody in this room has power and has agency, even though sometimes you may not feel it. It is critical that we all somehow work through that grief and try, without forgetting it, to come out the other side. Because I don't know about you, but I cannot think creatively about the way solutions can be designed if I'm in a state of despair and nihilism. and a state of where I shrug my shoulders and say, the world is just too big for me to make a difference. It is only by people with power and agency, including everybody in this room, that thinks this is the disruption that is here to challenge us. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do, not when we say warm words at these meetings and attend the UN General Assembly and have nice breakfasts, albeit coming late, apologies. What are we going to do when we leave this room over the course of the next 12 months that would actually address our grief, emerge the other side, and say, what are we going to do? Not to turn back to what we were before, because I do not believe the world is going back to what it was before. But we have to define that new future. And it is there to be defined, but we will have to define it. And that definition, as my colleague, the Regional Director, just said, is about redefining what we want. In the midst of a chaos, in the midst of a crisis, when you least feel like doing it, it is the most important time to show you're willing to be a leader and choosing the areas that you wish to make a difference on, that are being at most threat. And as I attended this year the World Health Assembly and the Executive Board and the various discussions that I've had intensely since May of 2025 on the disruption to women's health, to sexual and reproductive rights, to the rights of children, the rights of adolescents, the healthy aging agenda, and fundamental questions across some jurisdictions that are being re-asked about issues that we thought had been solved and agreed on many years ago. If there were one area of disruption that to me is the most egregious, it is the disruption that we are going back to questioning the very values that we thought we had established 30, 40, 50 years ago, with key landmark decisions that were made in just about every country, and where leadership was provided to say that the health of women and girls and adolescents and children was sacrament to the absolute health system we wanted to establish. So in this period, one can anticipate that if things do not change, we are likely to have 14 or 15 million additional deaths by 2030. 2030 is not some future generation. It's just around the corner. And if we choose to leave New York in September 2025, and we return in 2026, and we've said the warm words, and we haven't acted, and we haven't come together, then I think those 14 million extra avoidable deaths will be closer to 20. And the responsibility of that, yes, of course, it lies in those that wish to disrupt, but it also lies in those of us who attend these meetings, because we do have the authority. We are given that responsibility, and if you're given responsibility, the crucial thing is to use it. Otherwise, you might as well give it away to somebody else. So what should we do? I think from my lessons as a clinical scientist in Vietnam to the lessons of running a big foundation, giving out $2 or $3 billion a year, to now being in the World Health Organization, the key for me is solidarity and togetherness. When you see many, many different spheres, through basic science, through discovery science, through social sciences, through genetics, genomics, you see in my previous job, the whole area of people's work. I can promise you the one lesson I learned is those communities that are divided do not do well. There may be reasons for division. You may not agree with this aspect of maternal health or that aspect of maternal health, or your view on sexual and reproductive health and rights seems slightly different to the person sitting over there. But if you allow those differences to be exaggerated, the outside world will hear that exaggeration and think you are fragmented. And they will not be willing to support you, because it will come down as a sense of a community not cohesive, not organized, not coordinated, not really knowing what they stand for. So in these communities which are diverse, and by right they should be diverse, and by what they wish to achieve, they must be diverse, because that's actually the only way to make progress. But if that diversity comes off into disagreements that are acknowledged, talked about, and that when we speak to our political masters, those differences are exaggerated or amplified, then those communities suffer. So my second plea after peace would be that we do come together not just in MOUs and words and what we say, but we actually say, let's put aside the differences of our different organizations and have a common theme for the next 1, 2, 3 critical years. Because if we wait 3 years and we do not come together with the current rate of disruption in 3 or 4 years' time, it will be extraordinarily difficult to turn that around. So what we can do next year, the year after, building up to 2026, 27, 28, will make the difference. And solidarity and togetherness will be the answer. And from a WHO perspective, and I'm sure I speak for my colleague as the regional director for WHO Afro, but I have also spoken to each of the other regional directors, and I've spoken to Tedros. And you can be absolutely assured that across all of the regional directors and across my responsibility now within headquarters in Geneva, this community will have the absolute, unambiguous support for the work you do, and anything we can do to support that work through you, we will do, even and if that comes at some degree of political pressure on us. That's our mandate, that's what I ask of you, and that's what I hold myself to be accountable to you when we next meet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I think my takeout from Jeremy's presentation is that something as simple as a QR code can delay our progress. But on a more serious note, I think the point around solidarity and what are we going to do? And what we are going to do is that we need to mobilize all of us. And one of those assets that we need to mobilize is resources. It's for us to go over the bump of the cut and start to say, what are our new ways in which we are going to address this challenge? Because we always say that love is shown in budgets. So I'm going to invite a close friend of mine. I don't know that Agnes is on the line. She's supposed to, yeah, she is. So Agnes Sokat, who has been at WHO before as Director of Health Systems Governance and Financing, and now working with the French AFD, will talk to us about resource mobilization, efficiency, accountability, and equity. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome. You have your next, I think I'm told you have only 4 minutes, I think. But I know you're very efficient.
Thanks.
Over to you.
Thanks, Jitinji, and good morning to all. Actually, as we stand here, a quarter into the 21st century, we've been living through more than 100 years of spectacular improvements in human health, and more recently, 25 years of unprecedented increases in health spending at both global and national levels. We know that economic growth, technology, education have fueled demand, while progressive institution and government capacity building have built the supply side. But spending on health has increased faster than economic growth and has become more public. Health spending now represents about 10% of global GDP, with 60% being public, and development aid represents less than 0.2% of spending. Yet, this relative abundance of resources has, in a way, papered over profound cracks in our health financing system, and likely made the cracks deeper and more structural because they were masked by the increase in resources. The recent and even more unprecedented and abrupt withdrawal of the largest funder for global health threatens reversing hard-fought gains without addressing the structural failures in global health. In effect, this in many ways throws out the baby with the bathwater. COVID was a natural experiment testing country health systems, but also testing the global health architecture and institutions. And we now have entered an era of no less than tectonic changes. This was mentioned by Ellen before, environmental, geopolitical challenges, among others. We witness under our very eyes the end of development aid as we knew it. The asymmetric donor-recipient model is gone for good, towards a need for collaborative models to address common issues, national and global. It is the era of the global commons, but also the national and regional commons. We now need a set of actions for moving forward on health financing. We should be guided by the need for structural reforms in health financing systems that can produce results at the national level, and not by a reactionary approach to recent events or by fad-driven donor agendas. In fact, we should be driven by what we have learned in health financing at both household, national, and global level about over the past decades. First, at household level, we know that people are willing to pay for health as an investment in their human capital. But we also know that issues of market failures and equity need to be addressed. This is why there is a need for collective financing, mostly government financing, to address those market failures and equity issues. However, there are different ways to address this. One way is cash transfers, and we have learned about the power of transferring money into the hands of people. It works, but it's not the only one. Free healthcare supply works also to some extent, but it's also having some shortcomings. We need national policies that actually bring this kind of instruments together to the front line so that they serve the people. And at national level, this is the next level. We know there is significant progress, but this progress has been stalling with a plateauing of results even before the COVID pandemic hit all our countries, and is now threatened by this major questioning on how to invest in healthcare and who should invest in health. We need now a shift to focus on institutions building, strategic purchasing, data, and linking supply and demand strategies, linking the investments in health services to investments in social protection. We need to invest in systems for health rather than health systems, finally recognizing the profound multisectoral nature of health and responding to planet issues, to the environmental threats that we are all facing. We need an approach that is science-based to promote efficiency and equity. And we need to use fiscal instruments to shape markets and behaviors, including taxes and subsidies. And I will finish with a call for a change at global level. Global funding needs to first and foremost be oriented towards global public good and through global taxes, such as airline taxes, carbon taxes, financial transactions taxes, because we need to use subsidiarity. Too often in the past model, global funding has substituted for national investments. It needs now to be focused on what we all have in common, including focusing on research and development, as well as information. We need to shift to regional funding for regional public goods and invest in regional institutions. We need to avoid the trap of centralization, which has cost us so much in the vaccine distribution during the COVID pandemic. And we need to address global governance issues. The United Nations that brings us together this week was designed during colonial times and is probably no longer fully fit for purpose. We need a new multilateralism that is grounded in current post-colonial world and taking into account the reality of the emergence of regional blocs. Finally, and I'll finish on that, we really need to enforce regional mechanisms and coalitions to align sovereignty and collective actions. We all remember how countries were not able to access the COVID vaccine during the pandemic. This is a lesson learned. Sovereignty, collective action, that's what is underpinning the rise of domestic financing. Thank you.
Hello. Yes, there we are. Thank you very much for those contributions, and you've shown us the pathway to love, because as I say, it is budget, and it's going to be very, very difficult moving forward without finding new sources of resources, which is why we're here to discuss this. So, Kate Gilmore, Board Chair, IPPF, from a rights issue advocacy, how do we address these challenges? Maybe you could give us your 4 or so minutes. Do you want to speak from here?
Good morning, everybody, and happy birthday, PMNCH. I won't sing. I think it's important to commence by affirming the manifestations, the costs of what we're facing, which are, as we've heard, far worse health outcomes, more preventable death, illness, and injury, more loss of life, loss of opportunity across the life course, more exclusion from community, deeper denial of dignity, more violation of rights. That is what we are up against. Not for all, of course, exclusively for those who cannot purchase their way out, particularly for those whose options are choked by minoritization and bigotry. Specifically for those whose dehumanization, to the point even of genocide, is so perversely made political trophy. Deeper inequality, however, is Janus-faced. We tell the face of the left behind, but what of those striding out and away in front? This inequality has winners too. Today's production lines of inequality and injustice are orchestrated for exactly that. Not only from certain geometrically shaped offices of renewed political sociopathy, but in behind-the-scene boardrooms and funded out of the purses of the wealthiest of the wealthy. Friends, both before and after World War II, robber barons of media, mining and manufacturing have campaigned to undermine public regulations of labour, land, air, water and health, to perpetuate fossil fuel dependency and, today, climate crisis denial, to weaken consumer protection, to oppose sovereign debt relief and abstract fairer, including the transnational taxation regimes we just heard about. Today, it also manifests, as we've heard, in the erosion of multilateral systems, desecration of pluralistic press and academic freedom, clamp downs on civil society, militarization of public spending, betrayal of the rule of law. In our sector, it is censorship, it is sanctioning of experts, it is shutting down databases, it's closing off long-standing research, it's denying evidence-based interventions, and it's imposing legislation to curtail the rights of key populations. And they have their enablers too, in our silences and understatements, in our appeasements and accommodations, in my agency first responses and posturing, and in the fantasy that somehow we just have to wait them out. They are organised. Do we appear, paralysed? Disorganisation between our organisations, that too is their enabler. What so many have underestimated, plutocrats and autocrats have grasped all too well, the democratising power of sexual and reproductive health and rights for all. And it is the corollary that erosion of sexual and reproductive health and rights can serve and facilitate anti-democratic outcomes. Coveting political power to protect and advance unconscionable economic power is a deeply immoral project in want of seemingly credible moral disguise. To buy the state, to bully the state, to shrink the state, you have to occupy the state, or better yet, supplant it. And for that, there is no substitute for public support. Successive generations of primarily Western plutocrats have worked to weave a disguise of morality and a shimmer of public support, pouring billions into refining techniques to galvanise popular mandates against popular interest, only to rediscover what generations before knew. Blow to you, blue in the face, on the dog whistles of gendered, sexualised and racialised anxieties, wrap it up in a faux packaging of moral and religious cant and front it with spokespeoples utterly unconstrained by fact. It worked then and it's working now. Anti-rights, anti-gender forces are Trojan horses. They're rallying public opposition to even as evidence-based healthcare, but it's equality, it's democratic values, it's universal human rights, and today protection of our planet that are the city of Troy. It's not merely the puppet strings of the US Project 2025, the European Parliamentary Forum on Population and Development says deep-pocketed aristocrats, ultra-conservative tech elites, ideologically aligned corporate players funneling money into anti-rights movements with grave and direct consequences for HIV, SRHR and vaccine. Yes, the Liberal aid regime needed decolonisation, but a far more brutal recolonisation is underway. Paris Principles aid disappearing and dark aid, shadowland aid flowing unchecked. Friends, it's not an anti-private sector message. It's a message against unconscionable inequality, against a world in which a mere 3,000 men own more personal wealth than all UN member states except the US and China. It's not a message against wealthy families whose philanthropy has supported global health so powerfully, but it's a warning. We are in a pitched battle with the unnamed Janus face of inequality. Those who are waging war against the global commons, against the common good for their private gain. We've gravely underestimated what the most grotesquely rich are prepared to do. And we are so utterly enfeebled in meaningful response to that when we respond separately only, without community, coordination, collaboration, and common platform. And respond we must.
Wow. You feel it, yeah? Thank you, Kate. Your delivery always reminds me of my visits, occasional, to Broadway, but deeply, deeply purposeful, not purely for entertainment, deeply purposeful and things that move us and make us remember that that inequality is where we're here together. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. I would now like to ask Karen Rogne. She is the head department of multilateral cooperation and policy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Denmark, to make a quick remark from where she's seated. Karen, you can just make a 1 or 2 minute response and then to hear from you on the session that have been discussed. Over to you, Karen.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I wasn't aware I would be called on as the first, but thank you very much for hosting this event and for the very interesting contribution so far. Denmark has just, released. We have a new development, a cooperation strategy that is a great cooperation and between almost all parties of the Danish parliament, to name that, the broad support, and sexual and reproductive health and rights, and the support for many of these topics that we're discussing today are also a priority in that strategy, of course, among other topics. So being here today and listening to all of you, it really feels like a like this is fitting right in. From the Danish side, we try not to just talk the talk, but also walk the walk. I know that's a cliche of all cliches, but nevertheless, Denmark has for many years been among the front runners in the fight for women, girls, women's and girls' rights to make decisions about their own bodies, including also in normative forums. We've tried to be among the group of countries, of organizations, really trying to pull ahead. But also walking the walk. We will continue to support, like we have for many years, different organizations, such as, for instance, IPPF and MSI, who work globally to ensure SRHR and who deliver sexual and reproductive health services. So in a time where many countries, many organizations, organizations are pressed for resources, and they are so because of many countries' inability to continue to deliver the development aid of previous ages. So from the Danish side, we obviously can't be filling all gaps, and we can't be increasing our support, but we stick to what we've done so far, and that is also as one of very few countries in the world now to still maintain the 0.7 ODA commitment. And for this topic, we also, like I just said, try to continue at the same level. And I mean, I don't want to paint that as a victory, but in these days, it almost is. So we try to continue to do that, and so far, and that's why I mentioned in the beginning the broad parliamentary support for this development cooperation strategy. I think that's a very good sign. Even governments might shift, but that there's a broad also across parliament, across society support for this topic. So just wanted to say the partnerships like these are very essential for forces, like-minded forces, to come together for the advocacy, and also, of course, to look for innovative financing possibilities and to pave the way for further implementation on the ground. So thank you for coming together today, and thank you to all partners for the work that you continue to do on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And to that commitment by Denmark, I think we find that when we see slivers of hope, we celebrate. So thank you very, very much. A big hand to Denmark again. I think we're looking for those who can show the way. I was thinking about Kate's performance, and well, don't laugh at me. I was just thinking about it. And I thought of giving you some poetry as well, just very little, that takes us to the next session. And I also want to appreciate the arrival of the minister from Zambia, MP Excellency Elijah Muchima. Thank you for joining us. And we're also here with Dr. Glade, who is the DG of Health in Somalia. A big hand. You can see the interest in this session. It's not often you go to sessions and you find so many ministers of health convening. So we truly appreciate your being here. Hamelin Towns in Brunswick, by the famous Hanover City, the River Weser, deep and wide, washes its shores on the southern side. A pleasant spot you never spied. But when begins my duty, almost 500 years ago, to see the townsfolk suffer so from vermin was a pity. Who knows this poem? The Pied Piper of Hamelin, which was a story about greed, betrayal, and consequences. It reminds me of this moment that we are at. Go read the poetry. Because we don't have the time for me to recite all of it. It's actually I would have, but it's rather long. So we are going to move to another session now that we are going to hear now from the civil society, the people who are actually in the front lines. Each of them will have 3 minutes to just contribute and say, what are we feeling on the ground? What's going on the ground? I'll ask them to keep it to 3 minutes because you would like to enter the ministerial session, and Minister Aaron has requested to be allowed to leave a little earlier. So to those colleagues, I'm going to invite Simon Cook, the CEO of MSI Reproductive Choices. What are you hearing on the ground? We know the extremely good work that you're doing. So could you tell us, are we sacrificing the voices of those on the ground? Over to you, Simon, please. Yeah, please use that and keep it to 3 minutes if you can. Thank you.
Okay, I try my best. Okay, so first of all, an assignment for you after this meeting. I want you to walk to 45th and 2nd. That's how you say it here in the US. We have a very, very large billboard, which we call the pill board, which is a giant pack of contraceptives. And on it is written, this choice is out of reach for millions of women all over the world. It's, by the way, very near to the US Embassy for the UN. So everybody walking into the embassy will walk past this pill board, and we want you all to take photos, all of you to tweet, put it on social media, as an illustration of what the opportunity is for women to access contraception and also the millions of women who have no access today. So please go and see it. We're putting a lot of time and effort into trying to articulate, particularly to the US government, what is absolutely necessary and what many millions of women lack. So Gitinji, the first question Gitinji asked, what do communities identify as their most important priority? Well, I would be the first to admit today that if you have been a user of ARVs and your supply has suddenly been cut off, that is the most urgent need that you have. And that is what we're obviously seeing in communities where access has been denied. But very close behind that is the access to contraception and safe abortion for women and girls all over the world. There's 87 million more women and girls accessing contraception than 10 years ago, so that's a major success story. But of course, for all the reasons we've heard today, that some of those methods, some of those choices are now being denied. Given the demand and the access and the gaps in access and demand, what we're seeing today is a surge in clients coming to our outreach into our public sector sites and services. Many of these are first-time users. In Nigeria, for example, 8 out of 10 women coming to our outreach programs are first-time users of contraception. So because of a lack of the awareness and a lack of supply at the outreach and public sector, we are seeing a huge surge. This is, of course, at a time where resources are very narrow. We're also, of course, seeing a very large increase this year in clients wanting to access safe abortion services and post-abortion care. It's best served where the government itself engages, particularly in PAC and PAC training for public sector. We see that it's a significant improvement in access. It's no surprise then that governments that do engage have better health outcomes and lower maternal mortality rates. I was recently in Tanzania. The maternal mortality rate is 104 out of 100,000. That's a major success story. Training providers to do PAC is one of the elements which has helped them to achieve that. We've also seen a surge in demand for contraceptives amongst adolescents at MSI. 20% of all of our clients, 20%, are under the age of 20. It's very, very important when you consider in Uganda, for example, a couple of years ago, there were 365,000 teenage pregnancies in just 1 year. So access for contraceptives to adolescents who are often denied access is absolutely critical. Next question was, how can their voices inform program design and delivery to ensure services reach the most vulnerable? Well, at MSI, we do hundreds and hundreds of client exit interviews every year. We do this with clients who are often considered to have no agency, so in outreach programs, rural communities. We have a database of 180,000 clients today who tell us precisely what they need, they tell us how they want those services, and they tell us what they lack. We use that data to inform the choices we make as an organization, so opening clinic hours, different times to create greater access, providing more youth-friendly services, for example. And in a country like Zambia, we do sign language for people who have hearing loss and coming to receive those services. So just small insights we get from client exit interviews tell us how to provide better and more bespoke services for women and girls. And the most important innovation that we've done as an organization is what we call split teams. So when we're going to outreach programs, those teams split into 2. We're able to massively increase the number of women and girls we serve per session. And in Zambia, where we have very close cooperation with the government, I'm pleased to say, we've seen an increase of 420% in the number of clients that can be served on one day through an outreach program. So massive increase in productivity. The third question, Gitinji, was could you provide practical examples of how partnerships have strengthened service delivery and accountability? So I was frantically writing down in the break how many people in the room are here so I could write them down as key partners because I left a few of them out. But of course, everybody in the room here is a partner. We can't do this work alone. We're seeing, as I said, a surge in demand. There is obviously a restriction in the resources we can provide, but where we've got close partnerships, we're able to do that work in a much more consistent way. I would, of course, like to acknowledge UNFPA suppliers, because we cannot do the work that we do without access to government supplies, often through UNFPA suppliers. Mama Network, for example, referral networks, and TICO as well. And of course, PMNCH, who have been great partners and building allies and champions across the sector. To philanthropies like SIF and Gates, working with us now very, very closely to expand access to services across several West African states, where we're trying to move MCPR, really leapfrog MCPR to new levels in line with government targets. And I would say some of the most important partnerships are with governments. I've mentioned a couple already. Zambia, Tanzania, we have very close partnerships. Nepal, Senegal, Denmark is here, of course, thank you very much, Denmark. And Sierra Leone, South Africa, where we work more closely with governments, we get better outcomes, health outcomes are improved, maternal mortality rates drop, and we're able to provide essential services. One thing that I want to be really clear about, a number of countries in the region, in Africa, have signed the Geneva Consensus Declaration. This is a very, very insidious declaration that is going to potentially really restrict access not only to abortion, which is expressly denied in the declaration, but also to contraception, because as you know, the US government is increasingly trying to persuade you that contraception, long-acting contraception, are methods of abortion, which is of course complete nonsense. Those who sign this are doing so at significant long-term cost to their populations. So in summary, we are often asked, can we do integrated services? MSI is a very narrow organization providing contraception and safe abortion. But integrated services are great, but where we do this, we often see that SRHR is then left out or deprioritized. So we are very, very clear. Integrated services is the right way forward. It's great, but not if it's at the cost of SRHR, not if it's at the cost of provision of safe abortion and PAC services too. Just want to say a big thank you to all of those who support the work we do. We couldn't do this without you. We will have at MSI our largest ever impact year in 2025, which is remarkable given the backdrop, given the issues that most organizations in the sector are facing. And next year we will do, it's the 50th anniversary, we'll do 50 million CYPs, which is a massive increase on just 2 to 3 years ago. Why? Not because of the backdrop, because the demand is so high, and because we are programmed to do this, and because, of course, we did not lose US government funding because we never relied on it in the first place. But we do rely on you, all of you, to continue this work into the future. So thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very, very much. Extremely important data there, Simon. And I will just mention, Simon, that one of my first jobs after qualifying as a medical officer in Nairobi was to work at the Marisop's clinic in Nairobi. So I'm still available for consultation. We'll now ask Anu Kumar to come and make, again, a very quick submission. Anu Kumar is the CEO of IPAS that works a lot on delivery of services to women and children in humanitarian crisis settings. Over to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me at such an important time in our sector. So I've been asked to talk about humanitarian work. I think as all of you know, IPAS works to build resilient abortion and contraceptive ecosystems. And we do that everywhere, but especially in places of great need, which are, of course, constitute the humanitarian and crisis centers, crisis settings. We've had a lot of statistics this morning, but I'm going to throw out a couple more at you. There are roughly 35 million women of reproductive age who are living in humanitarian settings right now. Every day, 507 of them die in pregnancy or childbirth. So this is an incredibly urgent and immense problem that we're contending with. And of course, it's just growing because the level, the scale, the number of crises continue to increase. We see them not only from conflict, but also from climate. And that's something that I think that we as a sector also need to grapple with, is how do we address climate change and mitigate the consequences of climate. So at IPAS, we of course work, everything we do is through partnerships. Like so many of you, we work with governments, we work with civil society, big and small, and we work with communities directly. But in this area, there's definitely been pushback. There's concern on the part of those organizations that are boots on the ground in how to address and work on abortion care. There is hesitation on the part of donors to fund this area. They feel that it may be too controversial. And what we see essentially is deep-rooted stigma and shame that surrounds contraception and abortion care. And I just want to remind us that the United States government never supported abortion care, and it certainly did not do so in humanitarian settings. So we cannot claim that we are somehow without the resources of the US government, because we've never had the resources of the US government. Fortunately, we have found partnerships and partners that work closely with us. IPAS is fortunate to be part of the Interagency Working Group for Reproductive Health in Crisis, which has ensured that safe abortion is part of global guidance. And we've expanded the contents of the emergency supply kits to make sure that abortion commodities are present. And we've been training frontline health workers as well. And we've also been working with UNFPA, the humanitarian division, to ensure that referral systems are stronger. So here are some of the key, I would say, programmatic challenges that we face in this work. The first is sexual violence, and that really hasn't come up today, but it is an issue of staggering proportions, particularly in these settings. At least 1 in 5 women in humanitarian settings has experienced sexual violence, and some studies have found that the incidence of sexual violence is as high as 72%. This is enormous, and it is critical that survivors of sexual violence who face unwanted pregnancy have access to basic care. Things like emergency contraception, pregnancy testing, post-exposure prophylaxis for STIs and HIV, and safe abortion care. Transactional sex is something that is extremely common in these settings. You can imagine that women and girls are exploited in these situations. They don't have the ability to earn an income. They must delay their educations. So they experience early marriage, they experience unintended pregnancy, and transactional sex and exploitation. And then finally, of course, unsafe abortion. The risk of life-altering complications from unsafe abortion is high in every single crisis. IPAS's research has found that such complications are up to 7 times more severe in conflict and fragile settings. So these are some of the major challenges that we face. And the final thing that I want to mention is, what can we do? What are the lessons that we have from this? Well, first of all, we have to actually design programs that meet the needs of the people that we're serving. If women are experiencing such high levels of sexual violence, then we need to have training tools that actually meets their needs as survivors of sexual violence. And sometimes providing the standard of care, which can include things like pelvic exams, is re-traumatizing to them. So we have to modify what we actually provide. We also need to make sure that we trust and channel resources to local organizations, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are both going to be prepared and respond to humanitarian crises. So we've seen this in our own work, for example, in Nepal, where IPAS Nepal has built safe houses with community partners to serve women and girls and children after humanitarian disasters. And then we've worked with local government there to expand and develop implementation plans to meet the needs of their populations. We've created mobile health clinics in acute crisis settings in Ethiopia and the Democratic Republic of Congo, again, working with local partners. And there we're providing not just SRHR care, but also mental health services, extremely important for people who are traumatized and re-traumatized. And finally, we have to make sure that people who are living in crisis settings also have options. For many women, self-managed abortion with pills could provide a much-needed, safe, confidential option. This option should be offered more widely. So there's so much more that we can do for people living in crisis settings. Of course, we have to forge partnerships at all levels, and we have to combine our resources to meet the needs of this population. But I want to end by saying that we have neglected this group of people for far too long. If we can address this need, the needs of people living in these settings, we can dramatically alter maternal mortality, maternal morbidity, and the lives and health of millions of people. And I urge us to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we are now going to have one last speaker from civil society, and then we move to the ministerial session. This is going to be our colleague who is the chair of the president of the International Pediatric Association, and this is Professor Joseph Haddad. So if you could make your remarks brief and clear to them. We spoke earlier, you gave me a phonician actually. Okay, thank you. You want to speak from here or there? Thank you. Okay, Professor Haddad.
Thank you very much, honorable ministers, distinguished guests. Just to give you an overview of myself, I am a Lebanese guy, born in Africa, in Senegal, and I hold the Senegalese citizenship. I had worked and I studied in Europe, and now I come back to my stormy country, as you know. Well, today, the importance of cross-professional collaboration in advancing health is very important. In today's rapidly changing global landscape, cross-professional collaboration has become essential for improving the health of women, children, and adolescents. The complexity of health issues facing these populations, ranging from maternal health to adult mental health, demands a multi-faced approach that draws on the expertise of various professionals. This collaborative effort not only enhances the quality of care, but also addresses the social determinants of health that impact vulnerable groups. There is key reason for cross-professional collaboration. A holistic approach is very important. Women, children, and adolescents require often a range of services, from medical treatment to mental health, including education, environment, and everything. We have to widen, our pediatricians have to widen their horizon to this very important problems. Collaboration among healthcare providers, social workers, educators, and community organizations ensures a more comprehensive approach. We have to share knowledge and resources between professionals. We have to increase the accessibility and finally advocate for rights and dignity. And here, I cannot pass through that. You know, all of you, Khalil Gibran, this wonderful poet. He said, safeguarding the rights of others is the most noble and beautiful end of a human being. So, innovative models of interprofessional teamwork was drawn from 115 years of experience of the IPA. We actually have only 115 years of experience. The International Pediatric Association, alongside with its national pediatric societies and the collective strengths of 1 million voices, we have 13 program areas, 340 experts worldwide working together to this holistic approach. We have fostered several innovative models and interprofessional teamwork. These models are demonstrating significant promise in enhancing access, continuity, and quality of care for women, children, and adolescents. We have integrated care networks, community health worker program, collaborative care models, telehealth initiatives, and advocacy conditions. Before I conclude, I would like to express my thoughts aloud for the families that are suffering from humanitarian crisis of extermination and genocide. How can we turn a blind eye to our mothers, children who are dying, and fathers in such horrifying conditions? It is our duty to commit ourselves to advocate and act for their rights and dignity. In conclusion, we have to promote this cross-professional collaboration. Welcome to the 32nd Congress in Rwanda, 10 to 12 September 2005 in Kigali Convention Center, the heart of Africa. And all of you know John Hemingway. You know him? He said, if I have seen magic, it has been in Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor, for those remarks and very passionate remarks. Did you mean 2025 or 2026? 27. Thank you. Please note that. No, thank you very much. Please note that because we would like to join you. And magic always happens in Africa. Thank you very much. Now, we are going to request some comments now from the ministers to tell us exactly how they handle this difficult task. Because at the end of the day, they are the drivers of the bus, and we are in that bus, and they're the ones taking us to the direction. We talk about in the new strategy, country-led change. Country-led and country leadership is critical to this. So it's my honor to invite Honorable Minister Aaron Moswaledi of South Africa to make his quick remarks. Sir, if we can keep the remarks also very brief, that would be appreciated. Would you like to speak from up there? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, Program Director. The Right Honorable Helen Clark, former Prime Minister of New Zealand and the Chair of the Board of the partnership that brought us here today, Professor Jagub Janabi, WHO Afro Director, fellow colleague ministers, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates and guests. It's a great honor to address you today on behalf of South Africa. The health of women, children, and adolescents must remain a top political priority. 1 year ago, we discussed what it will take to ensure that no woman dies while giving birth and that every child has a chance to survive. Today, we must ask ourselves what has changed. We are being told that every 2 minutes, a woman dies. And in the same 2 minutes, we lose 11 children. We commend the partnership 2026 to 2030 strategy, which will build on decades of experience. South Africa's commitment to women's, children's, and adolescent health is built on 4 key pillars that align with this strategy. And I want to name the pillars. The first one is collaborative advocacy. We are inspired by President Cyril Ramaphosa's words, and I quote, if we secure the health of every woman, child, and adolescents, will fundamentally improve the health and well-being of all humanity, close quote. Our second pillar is leveraging digital transformation. For instance, we launched a digital platform called Mom Connect, where all the pregnant women connect and we are able to communicate them until the birth of the child or until the 6 weeks after pregnancy. And the third one is prioritizing the nexus of climate and health. We know that children often are the first casualties of wars and climate change, and prioritizing their health in the face of this global crisis is not just a political choice, but it's a moral imperative. The last pillar is strengthening accountability. Every leader must push for robust regional mechanisms to hold governments accountable. We must ensure that promises translate into tangible, measurable outcomes. South Africa is a proud champion of PMNCH Collaborative Advocacy Action Plan. And under the leadership of President Ramaphosa, who also chairs the Global Leaders Network, we are driving a coordinated, multi-sectoral approach to prioritize women's and children's health. Following a sudden and significant funding cut, South Africa immediately took steps to maintain essential services. Our National Strategic Plan for Prevention of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, we got a sum of 1.6 billion rand to work on this. Our human papillomavirus vaccination program is a cornerstone of our efforts to protect young girls. Since its inception in 2014, we've vaccinated more than 6 million girls between the ages of 9 and 14 years. Our Mom Connect digital health service has reached a significant milestone. It is its 11th year, and over that period, it has reached 5.9 million mothers who have registered. And a recent report shows that 96% of surveyed mothers are attending at least 4 antenatal care visits. This is a substantial increase from 76% in 2016. This initiative has produced measurable results. Our facility maternal mortality rate has significantly reduced, dropping from 240 per 100 live birth to 97 per 100,000 rather, 100,000 live birth. But I must also confess that our change in direction on HIV/AIDS in 2010 contributed immensely to this drop in maternal mortality. As a way forward, we wish to encourage PMNCH to accelerate the implementation of the strategy, building on the success of Global Leaders Network under the stewardship of President Ramaphosa, as we said. We are calling for women, children, and adolescents to be included as a standing agenda item at regional forums such as the African Union. And I think this is extremely important. At the global level, multilateralism is a life-saving imperative when guided by humanitarian principles and grounded in equity. Yet, we are witnessing an alarming trend, the defunding of global health programs, particularly those who focused on women, adolescents, and children. Let us reaffirm our shared commitment to SDG 3, SDG 5, and SDG 17 about partnerships. In conclusion, I would like to thank PMNCH, the Global Forum for Adolescents, and UNGA for this platform. Right Honorable Helen Clark attested how difficult it is to be a Minister of Health. I can also attest my own sins. When we took decision to change South Africa's AIDS denialism in 2010, I became the most famous minister at that time. Friends with activists, including the Treatment Action Campaign, then Treasury happened. Treasury happened. Massive cuts in health spending, austerity. And it's not the Minister of Finance who become unpopular, it's the Minister of Health. It always happens this way. Even with these massive cuts, it is the ministers of health who are going to be roasted. And this matter needs to be looked at very carefully. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Aaron, for that. And also for the commitment through the Global Leaders Network to take this message to be a standing agenda in the African Union. We know we have worked closely with your president, and he's a man of action. We saw that in the Lusaka agenda, how he drove that to be a part of the African Union agenda. We saw his work in the COVID-19 leadership, and we believe that that commitment is going to be realized. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. I'd now like to invite Minister Ibrahim Assi from Senegal, a health geographist. I met him in Senegal, and he told me that his studies, the PhD, is on health geography. Social determinants of health are critical, but we'll hear from him on what Senegal has done to make such significant gains on reduction of maternal mortality. Welcome, Minister.
Merci beaucoup. Je parle en français. Excellences, honorables, mesdames, messieurs, bonjour. Au nom de son Excellence, Monsieur le Président de la République, Bassirou Diomaye Diakhar Faye, je voudrais remercier le partenariat pour la santé de la mère, du nouveau-né et de l'enfant de nous avoir conviés à cette importante réunion en marge de l'Assemblée générale des Nations unies, qui vise à accélérer les résultats dans le domaine de la santé maternelle, néonatale et infantile et à renforcer la redevabilité. Le Sénégal, à travers sa constitution, a pris l'option de faire de la santé un facteur de développement, une priorité, et s'engage à protéger les cibles les plus vulnérables. Cela se traduit au niveau international par l'engagement de notre pays à l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable 2030 et à la souscription à la stratégie mondiale pour la santé de la mère et de l'enfant 2016-2030. La santé maternelle, néonatale, infantile et des adolescents, notamment la réduction des décès, est au cœur de l'agenda national de transformation Sénégal 2050, surtout à travers son acte capital humain de qualité et équité sociale qui vient d'être officiellement lancé. Aujourd'hui, le Sénégal est à un tournant décisif en matière de santé maternelle, reproductive, infantile, néonatale, de l'adolescent et de la santé. En effet, notre pays a accompli d'importants progrès, parmi lesquels nous pouvons citer le ratio de mortalité maternelle qui a continuellement chuté selon les enquêtes démographiques et de santé, passant de 392 décès pour 1000 naissances vivantes en 2012 à 153 décès pour 1000 naissances vivantes en 2023, soit une réduction de plus de 40%. La mortalité néonatale qui est passée de 29 à 23 pour 1000 naissances entre 2012 et 2020. La mortalité infantile juvénile qui a enregistré une chute très importante en passant de 65 à 40% pour 1000 naissances vivantes dans la même période. Le taux de prévalence contraceptive est passé de 12% en 2012 à 26,5% en 2023. Et pour cela, pour y arriver, il y a eu des actes forts qui ont été posés, notamment dans l'atteinte de ces résultats. Et parmi ceux-là, nous pouvons citer la mise en place du couplet gagnant qui a permis la disponibilité dans les postes de santé d'un infirmier et d'une sage-femme pour une meilleure prise en charge de la grossesse, de l'accouchement et du post-partum. La priorisation de la spécialisation des médecins en gynécologie obstétrique, pédiatrie, anesthésie, réanimation en leur octroyant des bourses qui sont passées de $145 à $490 par mois. On a aussi l'amélioration de la disponibilité des ressources humaines dédiées à la prise en charge de la santé du couple mère-enfant par le recrutement dans la fonction publique et la contractualisation de sages-femmes d'État, d'infirmiers et de médecins. Nous avons aussi la promotion de la demande de soins en santé reproductive par l'intervention des Badjenougo, qu'on appelle les marraines de quartier, qui ont quand même une action communautaire extrêmement importante au niveau de la santé communautaire dans notre pays. On a la gratuité de la césarienne et des soins chez les enfants de moins de 5 ans. Nous avons aussi la redynamisation de la surveillance des décès maternels, néonatales et périnatales et la riposte qui a été associée à cette activité. Nous avons également le renforcement de la gestion des urgences néonatales et pédiatriques, la mise en place d'un réseau périnatal, la mise en place d'un réseau de soins obstétricaux et natals d'urgence et leur renforcement. On a également, parmi les actions fortes qui ont conduit à ces succès, la politique intensive d'équipement en matériel de santé de la reproduction, santé de la mère, de l'enfant et de l'adolescent, ainsi que toute la logistique et les produits nécessaires qui permettent de réaliser ces activités. La mise en œuvre de toutes ces stratégies a été facilitée et soutenue par l'existence d'une société civile très dynamique, très engagée, mais également d'une politique de santé communautaire. L'option du gouvernement du Sénégal a été une approche inclusive, transparente, avec la pleine participation effective de toutes les parties prenantes. Malgré quand même ces succès, malgré ces avancées significatives, le Sénégal continue de faire face à des défis pour la santé maternelle, néonatale et infantile, à l'atteinte des objectifs de développement durable, parmi lesquels nous pouvons mentionner le recrutement et la rétention des spécialistes dans certaines zones périphériques et éloignées. C'est un véritable défi. La persistance des diverses barrières socio-économiques et culturelles qui empêchent les femmes d'avoir un accès aux soins obstétricaux et néonataux d'urgence pendant la grossesse et l'accouchement. Mais on a également l'existence de déserts médicaux dans certaines zones géographiques qui ne permettent pas l'accès à des soins de base. Face à ce contexte, notre gouvernement accordera une priorité à la redynamisation des soins de santé primaires avec renforcement des programmes relatifs aux agents de santé communautaires et centrés sur l'individu pour réduire les inégalités d'accès aux soins conformément à la déclaration d'Astana en 2018. Le renforcement de la couverture sanitaire universelle permettant à chaque personne d'avoir un accès à des services de santé essentiels, de qualité et à des médicaments et vaccins essentiels, sûrs, efficaces, de qualité, comprenant une protection contre les risques financiers. La continuité des services de santé reproductive, maternelle, néonatale, infantile et de l'adolescent en période d'épidémie ou de crise multiforme. Le Sénégal continue à réitérer son engagement à œuvrer avec toutes les parties prenantes pour l'atteinte des ODD à l'horizon 2030. Et à ce titre, nous plaidons pour des financements orientés vers les résultats et l'équité, avec un suivi transparent via des tableaux de bord publics permettant d'inscrire la redevabilité au cœur du suivi de nos engagements collectifs. Pour terminer, juste peut-être quelques messages qui nous tiennent aussi à cœur. On sait qu'aujourd'hui, que la gouvernance mondiale fait face, certes, à une crise de mobilisation des financements. Mais nous pensons que la santé maternelle, néonatale, infantile et des adolescents ne doit pas subir cette crise. Elle doit être une priorité qui va être planifiée au premier plan. Nous pensons également que la réussite de la santé maternelle, néonatale, infantile et de l'adolescent sera l'un des meilleurs indicateurs pour apprécier la performance et la résilience de nos systèmes de santé. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
Thank you. Merci, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much. Of course, we know, Senegal has made significant progress, including your focus on UHC and community health systems. So thank you very much for sharing. I'd now like to invite Honorable Osid Dembi to make some quick remarks on Sierra Leone, and then we are going to go to hear from the Honorable Minister from Zambia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gitenji. All protocols observed so we could get down to business right away. It is a real honor to be here today. I think I want to start by reflecting on the loss of funding. For me, it's a shared view with a lot of our colleague ministers that the loss of funding may be a real opportunity for us to reflect on what was this funding doing, how was it working, and how could we do better going forward. For us, it is a clear opportunity to reorganize, to rethink, reprioritize what makes a real difference For example, I could have the best malaria program in the world with bed nets, with vaccines, with insecticide, indoor residual spraying, and diagnostics and treatment. But if I have all of those working well and the patient is malnourished, what do I do? I have the greatest HIV program available to me, and somebody has typhoid, what do I do? So, as someone said, the Minister of Health is a very difficult task because for us, you see the whole person. So for us in Sierra Leone, not only for the health sector, but to look at all of Sierra Leoneans, all 8.5 million of us, our focus is on human capacity development. And what that means is to focus on 4 manageable areas. Education for everybody, ensuring free education from childhood to senior citizens. I'm still learning. Ensure you have an equal emphasis in health. You want an educated nation, you want to have a healthy nation. The third major component is food security. Having an educated nation, a healthy nation, and a food secure nation. And the fourth component for us is the infrastructure that brings all of this together as we build a nation. So for us, health is not an end in itself. Health is a platform for our national development. So it's critical that the health system sees everybody and everybody sees themselves in the health system. That is how we interpret universal health coverage. So for us, health is following the life stages, a life course. We call it stages because even though it's a continuum, we've opened narrow windows that could allow us to see what's happening in each of those stages in people's lives. Pregnancy. We want to make sure that every pregnant woman gets all of what they need for their own health, as well as the health of the unborn child, and ensure a safe delivery. Once this baby is delivered, for the baby, actually, we have extra interest because we want to support the baby whilst they're in utero. Because by supporting the mother, we're supporting the baby. And when the baby comes, we're not only looking at their safe arrival and celebrating their arrival and looking at survival, we want to go beyond that and making sure that this baby thrives. And so from 0 to 60 months, we have an intensive effort as to all of the services that you bring to bear to ensure that this baby does not only survive, but the baby thrives. Till the baby is ready for school. In school, we focus on school health so that you provide all of what's needed for this child's health so that they could focus on acquiring knowledge. Till they're adults, till they're senior citizens. So that's how we've organized ourselves. So just coming up to the front end of the pregnant woman, you know, we know we have about 350 to 450,000 pregnancies a year. We've developed an app that will have us register each and every pregnancy with the ultimate intent that we want to influence the outcome of that pregnancy. So all services, you know, all of what we've been talking about today come to bear. You cannot do one without the other. We bring all of this to bear, and the ultimate goal is to look at the health outcomes. So the kinds of results we're seeing are quite phenomenal. Over the past few years, we've seen a nearly 70% reduction in maternal mortality. We've seen a 30% reduction in infant mortality. We see about close to 98%, 95%, 98% vaccine coverage. We see that in the past, any baby that's born less than 1 kilogram dies. Now 99% of them survive. It shows we're doing something. So I think for us, the reimagining healthcare delivery going forward is not to just look at siloed interventions. Let's look at the person, you know? And I think what we've demonstrated in Sierra Leone that this is feasible. And what we ask of our partners is 4 things. We call it the 4 A's. A number 1 is we have a clear vision of where we're going. Accompany us. Accompanying means you being with us, you're providing services, you know, we're doing course correction, we're making adjustments as we look at these numbers. Now, we're not looking for expert opinion. We're looking at data. What's the data telling us? The data is screaming at us as loud as you can imagine, and it allows us to course correct. So we want accompaniment. The second of our partners is alignment. We don't want to be moving in one direction and you moving your resources in the opposite direction, pulling us away from it, because these visions are not created by just ourselves. We did it in partnership with you. And so if there's a clear vision and you see the results are moving in the right direction, align with what we're doing. The third A for us is we want an accelerated pace. Like we said, as we speak here, children are dying, mothers are dying, and that's completely unacceptable. So we cannot sit around and talk and discuss and things when people are dying. We want an accelerated, what could be done yesterday should be done the day before yesterday. So we're in an incredible fast pace and we want people to come along or get out of the way. And for us, the 4th A is accountability. We want to be accountable to our people. We want to tell them what we're doing. We want to be accountable to you, the partners, as well. But we want you, the partners, as well, to be accountable. So that if we make commitments, we have agreements. We don't want to wait till the end of the year. We want to know in real time, are we making these commitments? Are we moving the dial in the right direction? Could we course correct? So that when we come back next year, we're not talking about new deals or new whatever. We're looking at what promises we made, were we able to fulfill them? So on that note, I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Minister Austin Dembi, accompany, align, accelerate, and be accountable. And those are the principles of the Paris Declaration, of aid effectiveness, and more recently, the Lusaka Agenda. The minister is just asking us to do what we've already agreed to do. Thank you very much. And now, my honor to invite Honorable Elijah Muchuma, MP, Minister of Health, Zambia. For you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And being the last, you learn also a lot from others. Yeah. First and foremost, when you look at the partnership, disrupting the status quo and accelerating change for women, children, and adolescent health in Zambia, you must first of all have a political will. Politicians make decisions. They are the drivers. In Zambia, immediately, we formed government. Currently, we are now 4 years from the previous government. The decision maker, who is the president, who chairs the cabinet, makes it very clear that no child, no woman should die at birth. Whatever comes, the budget, the agenda in the budget, health comes first. Zambia faced a lot of economic challenges. COVID-19, we lost a lot of lives. Worse was the drought. In my years of old now, I've never experienced it. Water dried, meaning we depended on the hydroelectricity. The water levels went down. Up to now, there's a disruption of energy. How do you store your vaccines? Listening to my colleagues, the politicians here, indeed, you need political will, first and foremost. And Zambia, ever since, has focused on how do we save the child. Education, which everyone was struggling to educate a child, from grade 1 to grade 12 and part of university is free now in Zambia, despite all these difficulties. Why? Because you eliminate illiteracy. People now will be able to understand why it's important. When they're educated, they will learn quickly. Health, we have gone in the communities using community health workers. But key here, do you have the money? Competing needs of a country are so many. You need food, agriculture. You need energy. How do you divide that? But political will says health first. When you have a health child, everything follows, productivity increases. And that's the focus in my country, Zambia. Today, was it 2, 3, 4 days ago, we bought ambulances for every constituency. We have 156 constituencies, ambulances, because we have challenges of communication, road. To ferry children, mothers, it has been difficult with the terrain of the road infrastructure. And the budget is very small. And also when you look at the population of Zambia, majority of the people are poor. They cannot afford. So we are trying to revive the insurance aspect. Of course, ever since we came in, mortality rate has reduced. In 2018, it was 252. 2024, we have come to 187. And also we're establishing adolescent centers using partnership. Of course, we can't deny that we can do it alone. We depend on partnerships. Partnerships are very key, very important. We have been learning also from neighboring countries, our colleagues in Rwanda. We want data center. So because when you have got information, you have to concentrate on the real issues. We want to establish ourselves to know exactly what it is. The population is growing, but the fiscal space is still stagnant. And it cannot expand because the levels of contribution to the tax is very minimal. So what do? We try to bring insurance, and also partnership is helping us to mitigate. 0 to 18, they don't pay. 64 and above, they don't pay. We have limited score where you can get the resources to mitigate. But the fact is, nobody should die at birth. And we have got what we call Constituent Development Fund in Parliament. Every constituency, not districts, but constituency. We found it at 1.6 million kwacha, but our leadership brought it to 36.1. In there is a directive that every health center must have a maternity annex. There must be water, there must be electricity. Because of what we experienced last time with the hydro water, we are concentrating now on the solar. We have admitted any challenge opens us our eyes. That's the beam. Unfortunately, we are still losing mothers, and we lost a medical doctor, a lady, specialist at birth just 2 days ago. All these are things which we want to discourage in Zambia. We want to improve. Digitalization is also key to us. Artificial intelligence, telemedicine are what we want now to bring equipment. Cancer cases in children. We want to establish also adolescent centers everywhere. Despite the little money we have, health is coming out number one. And we want to reach out to the most poorest person. A few days ago, I went to some place in this era where they have never seen a motor vehicle. You think it's a joke. That's a reality. We have to reach there with a helicopter. But how many can afford? And we want to concentrate there. We have to expand the health facilities so that everyone should be there. These shared resources is one issue which has limited us, but we can go on and on, but networking is what is important. Partnership is very critical to the rest of us. As we look at us, who can say in this house here that was never a baby? If they cared for us, why can't we care for the future? I can be going on and on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Yes, and we were all babies at some point. Thank you. I hope we're all good babies. And now, as we come to an end, I think the reflection of all the minister session is really to say, we are doing it ourselves, but we are not doing it alone. So partnerships, development assistance, technical is critical, but we will do the things ourselves, but not alone. I know that we are running out of time, so I would like to actually invite our last speaker in this session, but I also recognize that we have the DG of Somalia, and I would like us to appreciate Somalia because Somalia was one of the countries that was leading the maternal and child health declaration at WHA in May. So a big hand for Somalia. DG, thank you for being with us, and we truly appreciate the role that you played in getting that declaration through. So allow me to invite Excellency Arlene Beth Tickner, Ambassador at Large for Gender Issues and Feminist Global Policy at the Colombian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to make some quick remarks in this session, and then we come to an end. Thank you, Ambassador.
I'll stand here. I know we're running out of time, so let me just try and be as brief as possible. Let me just thank the invitation to the government of Colombia to join this space. I am an imposter in the sense that I'm not a minister and I do not work in the health sector, just to be clear. I was asked to talk about the need for global solidarity, and that's what I would like to reflect upon just for a moment. We've heard from others about the general context of funding cuts, misinformation, pushback on hard-won gains related to SRHR, diversity, and social justice. And I think I would be want if I didn't at least restate that the cost in human lives of these setbacks is no less than devastating. We're not talking about hundreds or thousands, but millions of lives, preventable deaths that are going to occur due to everything that's happening. Given this state of affairs, I think it's unnecessary to argue why global solidarity is so important, if not urgent. But what I'd like to do in these very brief minutes is to look very quickly at what this might look like in practice. In general, pushback against the pushback demands the pooling of funds, the guarantee of sustainable funding, political will and bravery, multi-sectorial alliances, and cross-regional efforts. Civil society organizations, states, and even international organizations customarily fall into the colonial trap of divide and conquer. And there has to be a way to join forces and to overcome that logic that's winning, actually. Second, active, open resistance, not just discreet behind-the-scenes maneuvering, is sorely needed. Quiet efforts can only get us so far in the current environment, and when and how we need to get loud and angry, and who has the necessary muscle to do so, should be part of the conversation. Third, emotionally resident messaging, not just technical, empirically driven language, which is obviously fundamental, is also sorely needed, as is the reappropriation of language being sequestered by the far right. Family, fertility, motherhood, abortion, gender, but new language as well. Latin America is working very actively on the discussion on care society and care economy. Care has to be part of the conversation as well, and putting human lives at the center of all of our efforts to build sound policy. Fourth, South-led alliances and South-South cooperation have to be promoted to combat the falsities about Western-Northern origins of SRHR and other agendas. Colombia is promoting currently a program called From Colombia to the World, which aims to share best practices related to peace building that includes a specific gender route that incorporates elements of SRHR, such as midwifery. We're working with several countries on the African continent and the Asian continent, but much more has to be done to build bridges between regions of the South to achieve this. Fifth, state civil society alliances and general power sharing, which is very difficult, need to be promoted as do alliances across civil society organizations and movements. Feminist, LGBTQI plus, which we haven't mentioned, and SRHR organizations need to join forces and find common ground. Finally, we need to guarantee funding for the work being done on the ground. This has to be a priority. And I just mentioned the important work being done by midwives in zones of conflict in countries such as my own that need to be supported to be able to continue saving and protecting life. I just want to end by inviting you all to the International Conference on Family Planning, which will be held in Bogota, Colombia, from the 1st to the 6th of November. We hope to continue promoting progressive, audacious, and angry conversations in the context of this conference in order to defend the hard-won gains that we've achieved and prevent any further backsliding, which is now upon us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we will endeavor to be in Colombia for that important meeting. We know how important that is. There was one person who had requested to make a very quick comment. That's Anna Cecilia Frelsen, CEO of Maternity Foundation. Where is Anna Cecilia? Yes, so could you make that from the floor, and then I'll invite Rajat to close this session. If you could make that 2 minutes. We've gone a little over time. I seek your indulgence for everybody, so please, come forward, there's a mic here, please. And as she does that, I want us to do a compact with everyone here, because I think, yes, there she is. Yes, please make your 2 minutes, and then we invite Rajat to wrap this up.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Thank you so much. And I think it's very clear, also by being here today, but in general, that if you just continue doing what we always did, we'll continue to getting the results we always got. And I think it's actually quite incredible that in 2025, when we think about maternal health, we are still measuring progress in terms of women dying. When we start thinking about how we go from commitment to action, it's also clear that there are no quick fixes, and also that there are no siloed interventions that can do it all. I would still like to emphasize two important areas, and actually one of them was just mentioned, investing in midwives. When we invest in midwives, we get 16 times return in terms of lives saved. And secondly, if we are to accelerate progress, thinking about what we can do with technology and with innovation, I think some great innovations were already mentioned. MomKind was one of them. But still keep in mind that scale is still the intervention today. So we need to learn a lot in terms of how we can effectively scale effective innovations. And then I would just like to share here in the end that we actually just recently launched what we call the 10 Million Safer Birth Initiative. Maternity Foundation in collaboration with UNFPA, with Gates Foundation and the government of Denmark, which really has the focus of combining those two, strengthening midwifery and using technology to reaching those midwives who are working often alone in remote and fragile settings. Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. I now want us to do the breakfast compact. We are going to take a group photo, so put your best smile and let's see whether you will be, yes, that's your commitment. We all commit to chase the zebra. My day job is I'm the group CEO for Amref Health Africa. Thank you for being here. Over to you, Rajat.
Well, thank you for that, Gitanji, and a huge appreciation for your leadership. It's been a long morning. I know people have busy agendas, so I will keep it brief, but there are three things I want to actually do before we go. First is, it is indeed our 20th anniversary. And what a foresight and vision those who had in the room. Flavia, please do stand up. It could not have been possible without you and stars. Helga, thank you for leading us into this. Come on, Helga, you cannot hide behind, come on. We do stand here today because of what you started 20 years back, so thank you. Thank you for getting us here. The second thing I want to say is that indeed we are confronted with a multitude of crises. People are using polycrisis, permacrisis, and there are various metaphors used to describe it. But for us, working in the women, children, adolescent health space on sexual and reproductive health and rights issues, it is a perfect storm. we are facing. It's not just reductions in funding, but it is in terms of deprioritization of agenda that we are fighting. We are fighting policy battles in different forums. So one of the things I do want to say as we look at each other, and thank you, Jeremy, for that really reflective remarks, we do need to make sure that this does not become a crisis of leadership, that we in this room hold each other to account to do what is needed for us to meet in a year's time, and inshallah we are able to meet in a year's time, because some of our partners, as we speak, are having to close shop. So as a partnership that prides itself for 1,500 partners in 130 countries, I don't know how many of them will be able to continue the work. So when we do meet in a year's time, and I hope we do, we hold each other to account to what we changed and what we did differently. The final piece I want to say, I'm often asked about, how we're going to have a conversation, a narrative of hope. And a dear friend sitting right here once told me, it's not hope what I expect of you, it's courage that I expect of you. Courage to do your job and do your job rightly, because it's the children in Gaza that are looking up to you for hope. What you need is courage. So I hope we give each other that courage and stand together. Thank you for joining us. Have a nice evening.